Hello, good morning to all of you. A warm welcome from GTU GSET Graduate School of Engineering and Technology. Today, GTU GSET in collaboration with Vodafone India is going to have a series on data analytics. In this series, the fundamental of data analytics will be covered. So, a brief about the expert session, uh, a brief about the expert speaker, Mr. Suryender Kumar. He is a postgraduate in robotics and automation with more than 8 years of experience in end-to-end technical solution development through designing, thinking, problem validation, by empathizing, forming strategies leading to proof of concept, development, and product definition. He has played a key role in establishing 10 Atal tinkering labs at distinct locations at India. In collaboration with Intel and Niti Aayog, Government of India under Atal Innovation Mission. He led the Advanced Innovation and Design Problem in collaboration with Innovation Acceleration Group at the University of California, Berkeley Executive Education that enables education institutions and innovators to create technology with customers and develop job skills aligned to the fourth industrial revolutions. So I would like to invite our expert speaker Suryender Kumar. He is also a national manager, technical services at FICE Bangalore, to start this series, to start this first webinar that is related to the data analytics. I welcome you, Suryender sir, to carry forward the series.
Thank you so much, sir, for a very nice introduction. And I would like to thank you on behalf of Vodafone India Foundation, Vodafone Intelligent Solutions, uh, to provide us this opportunity and platform where we can interact with enthusiastic faculties and students across GTU, and it really gives us immense pleasure to share our knowledge experience with the people, and we are looking forward to a very long term engagement with your university. So this program specifically is offered by, or we can say run by, in collaboration with Vodafone India Foundation, Vodafone Intelligent Solutions, and sponsored by Vodafone Intelligent Solutions under corporate social responsibility uh, for colleges and universities across India, uh, to help them equip with uh, skills that are high in demand in industries, uh, and skills that are related to Industry 4.0 technology. So again, a very warm good morning to all of you. My name is Suryender Kumar, and today we gonna uh, quick start with data analytics using Python. And today's session, primarily we will start with understanding what is data analytics, why data analytics is important, and how data learning, data analytics skills can help us to secure or get a, or to make our career better, or a brighter career, and how it can help us to get jobs that are smartly paid in industry and high in demand. So with this, again, I would like to thank everyone for participating and joining in today's session. And I hope that uh, together, this session we will have a lot of learnings going forward. And yes, we'll try to make these sessions as interesting as it can be. And we will try our level best uh, to ensure that there will be great of learnings out of this session. So I hope all of you will enjoy the program. And uh, specifically when we talk about the program, so this workshop is just the beginning of this program. So where we would try to equip or quickly get equipped with the skills. And then in going forward, we will have different events, different activities, like contest, uh, hackathon, makeathon, and expert talks, webinars, and so on and so forth. So without taking any more time, I would like to start with today's presentation. I hope all of you are ready. So let me share my screen with you people. All right. I hope my screen is visible to you. And I hope that you are able to see me also.
Uh, yes, sir. We can see you. And,
All set to go, sir. Shall we start?
uh, others can view the presentation screen.
Suryender, your
Yes.
screen is not visible actually.
Screen is not
Sir, screen
visible.
is not visible.
No,
Okay,
no.
I've
Screen is not
shared my screens.
screen is
And
not
it's
visible,
a
sir.
yes, sir.
Screen is not visible.
Okay, let me just try once again. I'm not sure why not, but it is saying that you are presenting. Okay, just give me a second. Entire screen. Yes, entire screen. Allow. Is it visible now?
Yes.
Yes. No.
It's rendering, right? Now it is visible. So let me switch on to presentation. How about now?
Clear, sir. It is
Perfect.
visible.
All right. Okay, perfect. And I hope that I'm audible also. And let me just turn on one more light. Yes. So that I was not expecting that I will have to put on my camera. Okay, perfect. So I hope it is better now. Okay. So perfect. Let's get started then. All right. So one thing before we begin, right? And I hope that all of you are ready. And what we can do, I'm not really sure, but yes, no problem. I'll keep switching between the presentation and the chat window. But I would like all of you to please make use of chat window, chat box. And second, also please do not hesitate to turn on your mic and ask a question, right? And one thing that I would like to understand at the beginning of this session, that how many of you have Anaconda installed in your computers? So Anaconda installation was one of the prerequisite that all of you should have come, installing in your computer systems, so that yes, perfect. I see a couple of yes. All right. So it is working fine. All of you have done the installation of Anaconda. Perfect. So how many of you are aware about Anaconda? What Anaconda it actually is? Those who are not aware about Anaconda, they can just type, no in the chat box. Okay. 1. All right. 2, 3. Okay. So there are few of no Python online editor. Okay, all right, perfect. So again, if what I will do, I'll just quickly share, and you are able to see the screen also, right? Over here on my screen, you see Anaconda. Then you go on products, then individual edition, right? Then you go on download, right? And over here you'll get three versions, right? One is for Windows, Mac OS, and Linux, right? And again, as of now, it only comes with Python 3, so you'll see Python 3.8. But earlier, till last year, previous year, there was Python 2 also, right? Python 2.7. So there were two versions that we used to call Anaconda 2 and Anaconda 3. And 2 means primarily for Python with Python 2, and 3 means with Python 3, right? And over here, right? So I would recommend all of you people, if you're using Windows machine, please download 64-bit graphical installer. Then similarly, if you're using a Mac OS or Mac machine, 64-bit. Then again, if you're using Linux, then first link 64-bit x86 installer, right? So you can quickly download, just one click and the download will start, for example, like this, right? So it will ask you to save and it will take some time to download the package. And once that download, you're done with the downloading the package, you can just quickly go and install the Anaconda, right? So meanwhile, we discuss the introduction of today's session, and we move into hands-on. Please ensure that those who haven't installed Anaconda on their system, okay, they are done with the installation of the same, right? So that we can quickly do the hands-on in today's session itself, right? So let's start with the introduction of data analytics. And again, a quick question. Can you quickly type in the chat box if you have worked on data analytics earlier? Worked on data analytics tools, technology, or projects? Okay, anyone who has worked, they can just type yes, and for rest of the people, I'll assume that they haven't worked on, right? So I will try to moderate my session accordingly. Okay, all right. Okay, so I see a couple of you said yes, Vedant and Ricky, Amit, yes, perfect. All right. So I'll just quickly help you understand, right, what is data analytics, right? So this course basically focuses on this phase, or the first phase of the course is focuses on data analytics. And when we talk about data analytics, there are a lot of terminologies are there in the market. We might have heard about data analysis. We might have heard about data analytics that we are talking right now also. Then we might have heard about data science, right? And then we might have heard about data mining, data modeling, and so on and so forth, right? So there are different terminologies, and obviously all these terminologies have distinct meanings, right? So we'll try to understand those things in the session. Then we'll also try to understand what is basically data analytics, right? So we'll pick data analytics out of those terminologies, and then we'll move forward in that particular direction. And we'll try to understand what is data analytics, what are the types of data analytics, and how those different types are used, and what are the meanings of those types. So if you see that if you torture the data long enough, it will confess, which means once you start digging into the data, and when we say data is nothing but the piece of information, right? And that piece of information can be in any form. When I say in any form, it can be a video, audio, visual, right? It can be just say audio. It can be a text based, right? It can be in the image form, right? It can be in the form of colors, right? And so on and so forth. So this piece of information, if we try to figure out or dig into that piece of information, for example, if we try to listen to a sound, right, or a voice signal, then obviously we would be able to understand what this voice signal is all about. It doesn't matter, right? What kind of voice signal is, for example, it doesn't matter whether it's just a speech signal specifically when two people talk or one person speaks, or it can be just a sound, right? So out of the sound also we will be able to understand what is happening, what is the intent behind the signal, and so on and so forth. Similarly, just after looking at a video, we can also try to understand the intent, right? And once we understand, then we can also try to see what will happen, right? And whatever is happening in the video, why it is happening, and so on and so forth. Which means nothing but the digging into the data, or analyzing the data, or understanding the data, or exploring the data. So once we try to do all those things, right, there's always a piece of useful information that we derive out of it, and that piece of useful information can be used uh, you know for different purposes. That purpose can be for the better, let's say if we talk about businesses, right? So how we can increase the profit, that can be one purpose, right? How we can increase the sales, that can be another purpose. Third thing, how we can reduce the customer queries, right? Which basically we are trying to address the customer pain points, that how we can decrease the pain of the customer, right? So what are then again how we'll try to understand the most of the problems that are reported by customer, then causes of those problems, and then we try to we can say predict if this problem continues, right? If problem remains, then what kind of impact it can make on business, on customers, on sales, on profit, and so on and so forth. And then how we can basically resolve these issues, right? On solve those issues, right? I'll just take a moment, just give me a second. All right, perfect. Yes, right. So that is what about, right? So from the definition of data science, we'll start the definition of the data science. It is nothing but exploring, right, and analyzing the data which is available in any form. Any form, when we say, which means it can be a structured data, it can be a unstructured data, or it can be the semi-structured data. And when we talk about structure of data, we more tend to say that the data is stored in well-defined format. For example, all the parameters of the data are well defined, and a human being can easily understand the data, right? So for example, if a data consists of rows and columns, right? So what column represents, what row represents, what is the meaning of one particular row or parameter, right? That is the structured data. Unstructured data can be, which is not basically in the form of rows and columns, the data where the parameters are not well defined, right? And data is not actually stored in one particular file, right? For example, tweets on Twitter are kind of unstructured data, right? So if you want to specify or work on specific type of tweets, so what we have to do, we have to extract all the tweets from the Twitter, then we have to structure them, then again depends upon the intent that we are trying to figure out or solve, we look for a specific keyword, and so on and so forth, right? Then why do we do that? So what this analysis results in, right? This analysis can be used, right, to develop understanding about something, right? So we can see based upon the tweets. So you might have heard about the tweet, what is trending on Twitter, right? So that is being analyze with the help of hashtag. If there are a lot of people are using a particular hashtag that is trending, or a specific keywords are used in those tweets, which means this particular topic is trending on the Twitter. That is the understanding, which means the most of the people across community, across country are talking about, let's say, pandemic, right? And so on and so forth. Then extract knowledge out of it. We can figure out hidden facts, hidden information which is there but we were not actually aware about it, right? Because we were not able to understand it, right? And then what do we do with that understanding and knowledge, right? So what basically we utilize that understanding and knowledge to take action, to form strategies, right? And why, what those actions can be around and strategies can be around, again, to develop to make business better, to improve lifestyle, to improve medical facilities. It can be to improve education quality, or so on and so forth. There are n number of application, enormous applications where we can use that information and knowledge to address specific challenges in the community. So what data scientist, right, when you have those skills to analyze the data, manipulate the data, then create models and train those models around the data sets, so that you basically will help uh, universities and colleges and companies, organizations, to basically take data driven decisions instead of depending on individual experiences or intuition of individual person, right? So one small video that I would like to show over here, which basically gives the overview or the growth of 200 countries over 200 years. And this video is developed by one of the scientists who was into healthcare domain, right? And he was Swedish, and he recently passed away a couple of years back. So his name was Hans Rosling. Yes. So I'll just I hope you are able to hear it. It is audible.
No, no, actually no.
Sorry?
It's not audible. Suryender.
Yes, sir, you are.
This video is not audible.
It is lagging.
Sorry?
It's not audible, sir.
Okay. So I'm not really sure. Video. Okay. Then I guess what I will do, I'll just share the link of this video in the chat box, and post the session you guys can have a look at the video, because I'm not really sure on this Google Meets how it works, how we can share the sound of the system. So I'm not really sure about, right? So why data analytics? And again, we have been talking about data analytics, right? It helps us to take decisions and so on and so forth. And 1.7 MB of data is being created by every human being in every second on the earth. and there makes basically huge amount of data. So okay, how many of you heard about the great hack? Can you just type in chat box great hack? Okay, one person, Deepak. Yes, it's a documentary on Netflix. The documentary name is The Great Hack. Only Deepak is aware about it. All right. So just to give you a quick overview, so this Great Hack is a documentary on one of the organization called Cambridge Analytica. That was a UK based data analytics company. And what these people did, that these people collaborated with Facebook, and somehow they got the Facebook data, right? And what Facebook, I mean, data from Facebook, and that data was about all the, or on the data of all the voters in United States of America. And what these people did, and it is said that these people had over 5,000 points about a person. Just think about, someone knows 5,000 things about you, right? So there were more than 5,000 data points about a person. And what these people did, these people used those data points, performed some kind of analysis, and understood their issues and problems, right? And then they run uh, we can say campaign in a way that each person was tackled individually. I mean, all the people were, created in or a class, divided into different groups and clusters, and all those clusters can be based upon age, based upon area, region, based upon their education qualification, based upon what we can say their faith or their understanding, and so on and so forth. And the dedicated, right, a targeted campaign, election campaign was run. And it is said that this entire process basically controlled the last US election. And uh, if you watch the documentary, right, it basically will give you the goosebump and will help us to understand how important the data is. And we at times do not realize, we keep posting photographs, we start using any XYZ app to modify our pictures, to upload videos. Then on Facebook and Instagram we do post some kind of post, similarly on Twitter also, right, post about certain topic, right? So we help people understand, right, okay, what do we think, right, and what is our behavior, what kind of attitude that we carry, what kind of personality we are developing. And when people get to know so many things about you, just think about 5,000 data points about a person, right, can control like in any way. And we will never get to know that we are being controlled. What we are doing actually is not what we want to do, but that this information that they know so much about us, right, is controlling us, and we are not realizing that, right? And that is what is the power of data. And in today's era, in 21st century, data is the most precious asset on the planet. Is said that, right? Whomsoever will control the information, whomsoever will control the data, will basically rule the world in future. And that is how, right, we are talking about AI, and AI is driven by data only. And government of India also has came up with AI policy in 2018, and rest of the world, right, also came up, which means that the countries in the rest of the world also came up with AI policies, and they have different goals and targets that they want to use or utilize AI and this information about. For example, for government of India, one of the key target is how we can overcome the poverty, how we can improve the education quality, then how we can uh, basically, yes, increase the productivity of agriculture system or agriculture economy, right, and so on and so forth. And most of the goals or targets, where a government of India plan to utilize AIs for around mankind development, human development, right? And how we can make life better with the technology. While you talk about other countries, let's say China. So China's key motive is, to be the leader of AI in the world, or world leader of AI. And when you talk about world leader of AI, which means, as right, I gave the example of Cambridge Analytica, right? If you are leader, which means you lead the data or you lead the information, in the world, which means you are the most powerful, person of the world, and that is how data can be done. So this one quick insight about, these are the few things that I would like to share with you people, and I can do, the later also. And again, we are in mid of pandemic, right? We are aware about COVID-19, and you might have observed that all the things that were offline before COVID-19 are moved to online, and this session also is one example. Given that there was no COVID-19, then we would have been meeting face to face in person in your college campus, not sitting online, right? Which means this is also a kind of data generation. And there you see one of the example, okay, what is happening every minute in 2020. So you see there are more than 2 lakhs, right? Or not 2 lakhs, 20 lakhs, right? 2 lakhs, more than 2 lakhs meetings or participants in meetings every minute in 2020, right? Which we can see the drastic increase in, in online activities. There is 500 hours of video content is uploaded every minute on YouTube. Think about 500 hours of video content every minute YouTube. Then also one of the WhatsApp users and so on and so forth. And if you see, between 2014 to 2020, there were 3 billion internet users across the world, and which has increased to 4.5 billion number of users that are on internet in 2020. And if you also see one of the line over here, let me zoom this in, that specifically in United States of America, not the United States of America. Yes. So as compared to January 2020, January 2019, at present there is steep 6% rise in the people, those basically are on internet. So again, and when we say internet, we always mean to say the people who are exchanging information over internet, and this information is being created, being stored, and can be analyzed or can be utilized for different work, right? And there is one more, this Cambridge Analytica. I'll just quickly share this with you people. Yes, this is again very beautiful organization, and when I say beautiful, I mean to say uh, sorry, the grammarly, sorry, I this is not Cambridge Analytica, this is a Grammarly, right? So these people also are doing kind of analysis, and you can see, okay, what world is thinking right now. So if you ask the common stuff that world is talking about, what people are doing in India, right? What people are doing in UK, US, and let's say put on the questions, what kind of questions people are searching, right, in India. So you see over here how to lose weight. That's what the most of the people are talking about in India. How to make a face mask, right? Most of the people in UK are talking about this. How to make a French toast. That is what most of the people in US are searching about, and so on and so forth. Then again, things to do, right? Things to ask. So you specify the keywords, then people searching in India, things to ask a girl, right? That's what I know. I'm sure about the most of the people in pandemic, right? Maybe are trying to do, and talk with their friends, things to ask Alexa, and so on and so forth, right? So this is again very good example of data analysis, right? How things can be analyzed, and you can see what people are thinking about, what most of the people who are in. So this basically represent the most of the people who uses internet, right? They are searching like this. So if you ask things to ask, right, so related to this particular line, so these are kind of questions are things to buy, right, things to buy on Amazon, and so on and so forth, things to carry while traveling. That is what people are searching in India. Or things to do when bored or when quarantine, and so on and so forth, right? This is another example of data analytics. All right. So we were talking about different terminologies of data analytics, right? Which are basically used. One is data science, data analysis, data analytics, and data mining. So when we talk about data science, it's basically the broader field, right? It is the umbrella, right? And inside umbrella, you have different aspects, right? Then data science is nothing but dealing with structured, unstructured, or semi-structured data, right? And that has to do with everything that is related to data, which includes data cleaning, data pre-processing, data analysis, data exploring, and so on and so forth. Then data analysis, and data analysis more about examination of the data, right? And again, the data can be structured or unstructured. And how do we analyze the data? We basically make use of mathematical functions and statistical functions, right, where we try to figure out what is the mean, variance, median, and those kind of stuff, with mathematical formulas, right, or equations. Then data analytics is more about making use of computer aided tools and technologies to perform the analysis, right? While in case of data analysis, it may or may not use the computer aided tools and technologies. But when we talk about analytics, it is basically more about driving the analysis with the help of computer aided tools and technologies, right? So this workshop is focused on data analytics. So we're gonna see, okay, what kind of computer tools and technologies are there. So we are going to talk about Python, and then Python packages and libraries, and so on and so forth, right? That's how we started. And I told if you have Anaconda installed in your system or not. So Anaconda is a kind of tool which is used for our data analysis purpose. Then data mining is more about finding patterns from the data, right? And then building models around those patterns, right? And which is basically more towards machine learning algorithms and stuff, right? Where we perform a predictive kind of things, or find patterns, right? So pattern, which means if once we are able to find the patterns, right, we would say, okay, if this pattern goes like this, then next will be like this only, right? So there are different data science process, and this process is nothing but talks about taking data from real world, and then taking actionable decisions from the analysis, right? So end to end. So initially is that there is something happening in the physical world, in the real world, right? And we want to analyze it, we want to explore it, we want to understand it, right? We want to find the hidden facts, and then we would like to take actions, right? And actions can be predictive actions, prescriptive actions, and so on and so forth, right? So it starts with understanding the requirement or objectives, right? So it can be related to business, it can be related to medical, security, healthcare, sports, and so on and so forth, right? Then we try to understand what kind of data to be collected in order to address this particular challenge. Then we collect the data, and data can be again structured, unstructured, semi-structured. Data can be from internet, data can be manually feed by people, data can be from registers, data can be sales data, data can be patient data. And you might have heard about, I don't remember the national medical card or something like that, which recently Prime Minister of India has spoken about on this Independence Day, right, where he were talking about the unique number will be given to the patient, and all the history of their medical treatment or medical records will be stored online or will be there, so that whenever they go for medical treatment next time, a doctor will be able to access it and will be able to take desired decisions based upon it, right? So the data is then processed, which means Yeah, the data might not be in the required format, right? Which we can understand. So data can be in JSON format, dictionary format, and so on and so forth, right? So data can be in different or HTML format, right? Then what we do, we process the data and we convert data into the required format, right? So we'll learn that also. We'll use pandas to perform those, steps. And once the data is converted into a specific format, the data is processed, then we try to figure out if data is right or not. Is there any missing value in the data? Is there anything which we don't need, right? And is present in the data, right? So that is nothing but cleaning the data set. Once the data is cleaned, once the data is processed, cleaned, and now is well structured, then we can go for EDA, exploratory data analysis. We can plot different graphs, right? We can plot, let's say, histogram, bar chart, pie chart, and so on and so forth, and which basically can helps to represent, present the data and the facts, right? And then we can build models around it, and obviously we can take decisions or make decisions to improvise a process, business, product, service, and so on and so forth, right? And if you ask me, there is no standard data science process, right? So different organization, different research group, and universities across the world have, almost is the same one, but little modifications in the steps. So this one is one of the process, data science process. This is another which is very famous, KDD, knowledge discovery in databases. Right, so if you see, this is also same: selection, pre-processing, transformation, data mining, and interpretation. Then we have another CRISP DM, which stands for cross industry standard process for data mining. And again, if you see over here, understanding business requirement, understanding the data, collect that particular data, then prepare the data, then manipulate data, find patterns, draw conclusion, then evaluate your models that you have built around the data, if the models are giving output as desired or not, how accurate it is, and so on and so forth. Then deploy your model, right? Which basically, make decisions and, take corrective action. So how many, what are the types of data analytics? So there are total 4 type of data analytics. First one is called descriptive analytics, which basically help us to understand what is happening, right? So this is more from, a kind of live scenario, and whatever is happening at present, right? Try to understand what is that happening. So number of COVID-19 cases are increasing in India. That is nothing but the description, right? 'Cause that is happening right now. When we specifically talk about the pandemic, right? The number of cases are increasing. There are 69,000 in some cases were reported in last 24 hours, right? So that is what happening. And this decision or concluding that there were 69,000 cases were reported in last 24 hours is nothing but example of descriptive analytics, right? This is being described. Now diagnostic analytics, why it is happening, right? One of the diagnostic analysis analytics that we did long time back at the beginning of the pandemic, that it is highly contagious, right? This virus is highly contagious. That is one reason. Second reason can be we are not able to detect the infected people, which is basically causing the spread, and so on and so forth, right? So whatever is happening, why it is happening, that is the diagnostic, finding the reasons, causes, problems which are basically causing this thing to happen. Then predictive analytics, if this continues to happen, what is that like, likely to happen in future? If the number of cases keep increasing with this rate, and as of now in India, the recovery rate is also pretty good, right? And if the recovery rate is pretty low, then the number of, cases being reported every day goes like this in future, then you might have heard about the predictions that by this month there will be that many cases in India, and so on and so forth, right? So that is predictive analytics. We predict, we find the patterns and analyze, oh, if this continues, that is what likely to happen in future, and if that happens, these are will be the impact and outcomes, of this happening. Then prescriptive analytics, right? What do we do in order to prevent it, right, in order to control it. That is what is the prescriptive analysis, where we prescribe something, where we recommend something. That recommendation could be another lockdown, that recommendation could be shut businesses, that recommendation can be take some other actions, and so on and so forth, right? So this is about the type of data analytics, right? Then again, data modeling we have already spoken about. Then we build model around it. There are different models based upon needs and requirement that we can build, right? Then very important about 4 V's of big data, right? So obviously when we talk about data analytics, we are talking about the huge amount of data and making sense out of that huge amount of the data, or humongous amount of the data. So it basically depends, or there are 4 V's defined for data. One is called volume, how large the data is, right? How big the data is, that is the volume of the data. Then we talk about variety of the data, which basically is related to the sources, the large variety of sources that data comes in, right? That is about the variety of data, right? And data can be in many forms. When we talk about source, right? So source basically makes talks about, or makes the data in different form, right? So if you download data from Twitter, it will be in one form. If you download data from Netflix or Amazon, right, a different form of data and different kind of data. Then if you take data from a hospital, right, that will be a different kind of data, right? That is nothing but the variety of data, right, we talk about. Then velocity of the data, how fast the data is moving, how fast the data is changing. So if you talk about one data, for example, tweets of a person on Twitter, right, that will keep on changing. There will be a lot of tweets the person will be doing. But if you talk about the medical history of that person, that might not be changing that frequently, right? So velocity is related to at what pace the data is being generated, right? Then veracity of the data, veracity is more related to factfulness of the data, right? How factful the data is, how accurate the data is, or how accurate the information which is there in the data is. That is nothing but the high veracity of data means high quality of data. And if we have high quality of data, the decisions that we will take using the data will be more helpful and useful as compared to the low veracity of the data, right? So these are the 4 important V's of the data that we big data that we should care about, right? Then pre-processing, I was already talking about transforming the data into the required format, then cleaning the data, which means filling out the missing values or removing or dropping out the missing columns, and so on and so forth. Then removing the unwanted information from the data set which is not required, and so on and so forth, right? Then data visualization, plotting different kind of graphs, and those kind of stuff. Then when we talk about this particular program, we are gonna explore, or get our hands dirty with open source tools and technologies for data analytics, which include Python. And then we will use NumPy, numerical Python, for performing mathematical statistical operations and handling n-dimensional arrays, right, with Python. Then we will talk about pandas, how we can ingest the data with the help of pandas, how we can pre-process data with the help of pandas, how we can convert data from one form to another form using pandas, right? How pandas and NumPy together can be used to clean the data, to structure the data, and so on and so forth. Then we'll talk about how we can visualize the data, right? So these 3 things are for explorative data analytics, and this workshop is focused around explorative data analytics, EDA, right? So I hope that all of you are ready now. How many of you can just type quickly in the chat box, how many of you are basically are ready with the Anaconda? Can you just type? Okay. So I assume that most of you were ready with the Anaconda. So let me just give you the brief introduction of what Anaconda is basically. So we are gonna use Python, that is one tool. Then we're gonna use some Python packages, NumPy, Pandas, and Matplotlib. And these four things that we're going to use only for explorative data analytics. Yes or no? Then these are the libraries, packages. Then we also need a kind of IDE, or that is called integrated development environment, where we can type the code, right? Where we can write the program. That is the fifth tool, right? So we're gonna have total 5 tools, basic requirement for performing the EDA, explorative data analytics, right? Now there are two ways to do it. We install Python separately, then we install NumPy separately, then we install Matplotlib separately, Panda separately, and then we also install your IDE, right? Any IDE which we would like to work separately, which means we have to install 5 at this particular point of time. We need to have installed 5 separate tools. Another way, again, from the open source community, and Python belongs to open source community only, right? So the people came up, hey, if anyone is going to work in data science domain, right, they're going to work with these tools and libraries, and it makes very tedious task to separately install these tools and packages, right? So what if we can put all these things together, right? Not only these five are just example for this workshop, but other tools like scikit-learn, all those packages and libraries can be are put together, right? And let's make one-click download available for a user, right? So that is what the Anaconda is, right? So Anaconda consists of Jupyter Notebook, which is the IDE that we're gonna use. Anaconda consists of all these explorative as well as predictive data analytics libraries and packages, which include these 3 mentioned on the screen, scikit-learn, and so on and so forth, in one package, right? So we don't have to install and troubleshoot these libraries and packages separately, right? We're gonna use directly from the Anaconda. Now, second thing about Anaconda is that it creates its own virtual environment on the system, right? So it doesn't conflict with the other stuff in the system, right? Which means it also comes with Python. So it doesn't uses the system Python. So if you are using Windows, right, so you have to install Python separately. But in case of Ubuntu, Linux, Python comes pre-installed. So, but when I install Anaconda, right, Anaconda also comes with on Python, right, which means it doesn't make use of system Python, right? That is about this one, right? So let's okay, so I already have, yes, Jupyter notebooks opened in my system. What I will do, I'll just quickly show you this process from beginning itself. Okay, I'll just close all these things, right? So open your terminal, right? And okay, those who are using Windows, I'm using Linux, so I will obviously have to talk about Linux only, but those who are using Windows, they will have the Anaconda prompt. So you can go to start button of your Windows, type Anaconda over there, right? The Conda prompt will come up, and in Conda prompt, what you all have to do, you have to type Jupyter space notebook, right? So this is the Python IDE that we're going to use. So yes, so it will take a couple of seconds to get started, and once your Python IDE is opened, right, this is called Python, oh sorry, Jupyter IDE, Jupyter Notebook, right? And Jupyter Notebook is web browser based integrated development environment, right? IDE, which supports, I guess, Python, Julia, and R. So these are the programming languages supported by Jupyter Notebook, right? And I guess there's few more, I'm not sure, right? So it is web browser based, it is not online, so which means you don't have to have internet in your computer in order to use the Jupyter Notebook. So I saw one of you were saying that it is internet based or online tool, right? So Jupyter Notebook is a separate stuff, but Anaconda is a tool which has all of them in one place, right? So Jupyter Notebook is a web browser based programming ID or development or integrated development environment, right? And it will pick up the kernels installed in your system, right? So if you have multiple Python versions installed in your system, it will give you those options, right? So you can see my screen, right? And what we have to do, we have to open a new file. This is the home directory, or you can say landing page, but more is it's the home directory of Jupyter Notebook. That is where I have opened my Jupyter Notebook. So it will list all files, folders in this particular directory where I have opened it. Now, in order to create a new file, you have to go on new, then choose your kernel. So our kernel is Python 3, right? Click on Python 3 and new file will get open. So this is the portion where we can write codes, right? And if you see over here where untitled is written, you can give a title to your notebook, right? We can say GTU Python session GTU, right? Rename it. So you say it is renamed. Now there are few more things over here. The first thing which you see is called shell, right? Where we can type a command. Then related to file, you can create a new notebook file. You can open an existing one. You can make a copy of it. You can save it as, and you can also export it or download it. That is another beauty of Jupyter Notebook, right? Python, original Python IDE is very ugly, right? And it is not really user friendly. While Jupyter Notebook is very user friendly and comes up with a lot of features. So we can write the entire code over here. We can see the outputs while programming simultaneously. We can export the output. We can export the entire Jupyter Notebook into different format, right? So you can say download as HTML, .tx, .md, .ipynb, which EIPYNB stands for Interactive Python Notebook. So wherever you see a file .ipynb, which means it is a Jupyter Notebook file, Interactive Python Notebook file. Then you have PDF. So for that you need to have a plugin that is called latex, right? So we need to install the latex plugin and we will be able to export it in a PDF. And if you just want simple Python file, right, .py file, then you can do that as well. And then slides, right? So you don't have to specifically when we talk about learning phase, right? Where we have to write a lot of stuff. We have to implement mathematical formulas. Then we also have to maybe use some images and so on and so forth, and different colors. All those things are there with Jupyter Notebook, right? Then you can edit, cut cell, copy cell, delete cell, merge cell, and so on and so forth. Then you can toggle header and all those kind of stuff. Then insert a new cell above or below. Then you say run cells and run all the cells, run all below cells, clear the output, toggle the output, and all the output, clear all the output of this one, right? Then you talk about kernel, right? Kernel is nothing but it specifically talks about the compiler or interpreter. Python is interpreter based language. So over here is the interpreter, right? So restart that interpreter, shut down the interpreter, refresh the interpreter, and so on and so forth, right? Clear? So again, and the same thing are over here, cut and paste, right? So let's say print, write our first program, hello world, right? So in other programming language like C, C++, Java, there are a lot of stuff, lot of libraries that we have to import. We have to define the headers and all those things, right? Then that is not done in Python. What all is just that is also, it is called scriptive kind of language, right? That just it's more like very easy to understand for human beings, right? So print hello world is the output, right? So that is what, if we use some other, let's say Python ID, what we will have to do, we have to create a .py file first, then we have to write a code in that, then we have to save the file, then we have to run the file, then the new window will pop up for output, and so on and so forth. But in case of Jupyter Notebook, if you make any error, the error is also reflected on the same place, right? Hello world, right? Then in case of Python, we don't have to specify the variable types, right? So it supports most of all the data types. When we talk about like numbers, strings, right? All those things are supported by uh, Python, and you don't have to tell them what type of, or you don't have to declare a variable in advance, right? In order to use the variable. So that is being done by interpreter automatically, right? And then you can say print X 12. Similarly, you don't have to do typecasting manually in case of Python, right? And if you convert this into float, right, the typecasting will be done automatically, and you say print X, right? So it comes 12, right? And let's say if I want to see what type of variable it is, so I can also print using type of X, right? So we can do the type of this particular variable is float, right? Then similarly, we can also, let's say my, I hope all of you are able to do. So we expect that you people to perform these hands-on simultaneously, right? When we type on screen, you also type on screen. And what you can do, you can open, one is uh, this one. I always miss its name. The device that we are using, right, for video conferencing. So Google Meet, right? So in half of the window, half of the portion of the window, you can keep Google Meet so that you can see what I am typing over here. In the rest of the half of your computer window screen, you can open your Jupyter Notebook and Jupyter Notebook file where you can write the program, and simultaneously you can type these commands and stuff, right? And this one is so integer type, float type. Then we can also, let's say my name is Suryender Kumar Sharma, right? So again, I did not tell what type of variable it is, right? So, and now I can simply, there is one way in case of Jupyter Notebook, you can, if you directly type like this, so it will print. But right way to print is always make use of your print function, right? So it will print. Now if you want to see what is the type of this variable, is my underscore name, right? So it is a string type variable, right? Let's say I make it, right, my name, my first name, right? So I just say Suryender, right? So next variable that I create, my underscore L last name, which basically is nothing but, let's say Sharma, right? Let's say if I want to print my underscore middle name, right, is nothing but Kumar. Let's say if I want to print all of them together, so print, yes, create a new list, my sorry, full name equals to, so this is a kind of operation that we can perform on the strings Python. In Python, my first name, then last name, and then in between you have your middle name, right? Now we can also print my underscore full underscore name, right? Suryender Kumar. Got this point? Now, if you want some spaces to be done, let's say like this. So we'll have to execute it again. Can you see? Now, let's say what happens if I perform a mathematical operation on this. So my underscore full underscore name into 3. What will happen? It is printed 3 times. Let's do another way. What happens now? Okay, string. So right, so the power doesn't work. So double star means the power, right, raised to the power. So raised to the power doesn't work with the strings, right? It only works with the numeric values, right? So that does not happens over here, right? So when we perform the addition operation right over here, so the strings were, you can say, concatenated over here, right? Those were added, right? But when you perform the multiplication over here, right, so that reprinted that string that many times, right? So these are the different mathematical operations over here, right? So I guess we are running out of the time today, right? And all right, so we'll continue. I understand, yes, the session time is from 11 to 12. What we will do right now, I'll just share one link with you people where there is a small assessment over here, right? So we'll continue the session from here where we'll discuss more about Python in detail, right? And because I see the most of you haven't worked on it, so we will broadly cover the different data structures in Python, right? We'll talk about Python list, Python tuples, Python then dictionaries, then Python sets, and how these data structures are very powerful for data manipulation and data storing. Then also we'll talk about the limitations of these data structures. We'll also try to touch control flow statements in Python, right? How we can create different loops. And then we'll talk about limitations of Python data structures and how those limitations are overcome with the help of Python packages like NumPy and other, right? So just give me a moment. I'll just share a quick assessment link with all of you. Okay. Just give me a second. Preview. So I would request all of you to please appear for this assessment. Okay. Perfect. So I'm just sharing this link, and this assessment is very important for certificates, right? People, those who won't fill this assessment, there will be issues in the certification for them. So I've shared the link of the assessment for today's session, right? And again, not necessarily the all question will belong from the session itself, right? The idea here is to also understand, if you have prior understanding about few things or not, right? So don't worry about if you know the answer or not, right? Just based upon your knowledge, please give the responses, right? Fill the responses. So it's just 5 minutes assessment. There are only 5-6 questions. And I request you people, please, if you're not talking, please keep your microphone off. All right. I'm also sharing the feedback form in the chat box again. Please, again, it is also much appreciated for you people to please submit the feedback form as well. Right. So it won't take much time. One is the assessment. And again, do not panic and worry about the questions in the assessment. Please try to give based upon your knowledge. No issues. So again, I'm sharing, this one is the feedback form. Here, and I'll also share the assessment link. Here is the assessment link. I hope all of you are able to access both the stuff, feedback form as well as the assessment link. Okay, I can see 17 responses. Okay, 18 responses in the assessment form. So please do fill the feedback form, and there is a comment box in the feedback form. Please mention your suggestions and recommendation, right? Based upon today's session, please help us understand that how we can make this session, better in terms of learnings and interactions, and how to make it interesting for you people. And all valuable suggestions are welcomed over there. Please do not hesitate to give feedback, so that we can make this learning experience even better and improvise further. All right, there are 25 responses. We still have around 53 participants. So I'm assuming there are even more people who are supposed to submit the responses. Yes, Sagar, which button you are talking about? Is it the feedback form or assessment form? At the bottom, you should be able to see the button. Feedback form also. It's there. Please try to refresh your page. It's there at the bottom. Submit button is there. And let me try also. Anyway, it's already tested. We have been using this form for quite a while, but for you, I'll see it again. Yes, it works fine. So I mean, once you click on feedback form, so it won't say anything. It just say the response is successfully submitted or recorded. Yes, I'm not sure if you're using mobile, if it give you the different visual stuff. Yes, today's session is complete, but we request you to please submit feedback as well as the assessment for today's session.
Okay, sir. So we can conclude the session, and we will be having next session, and the participants will be informed soon.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Okay. Yes. Sir.
I think so. People are still submitting the assessment. I can see there are total 36 responses. Anyway, I've also shared the assessment form with you, sir.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Fine.
If somebody will be having any problem, they will contact us. Okay.
Yes. And I would request all of you people, those who are, accessing and trying to submit feedback from their mobile, just open the browser directly, because I'm able to see the option while I am accessing from my mobile also. Yes, and you will get the better view if you change the landscape to the landscape mode. And I'm using a Safari browser, so not sure about other browsers, but in my browser it is working fine. Sure, I can send the feedback link quickly with you. Just give me a moment. Here you go, Sagar. Yes. Thanks, Pratik. Sagar, just open in the web browser. You can directly type www.fice.in/webinar feedback. So I hope all of you have submitted the assessment form, and I will just stop the accepting the responses. Is that all right? Thank you so much, Seemaji. Would request you to please fill the feedback form, and do help us, understand how we can make these sessions more effective. Please share your suggestions over there. Sagar, I'm not sure. You can maybe try accessing from your computer, because I am able to see in my mobile as well. Just open the web browser, or maybe directly type in web browser www.fice.in. Chrome, I'm not using Chrome on my mobile, Sagar. Yes. So I'm using iOS, so I use only Safari over here. So not really sure why this problem is coming over there. But in my computer, yeah, it is working absolutely fine in Google Chrome as well. Sagar, maybe you can try later from computer or laptop. try from a different device, that might work. And if doesn't work, please you can do mail to Deepak sir. No issues. I guess those people who are accessing from mobile phone, it. Yes. So for certificates and other stuff, for more details, you can also talk to Deepak sir. But just to give you people, brief insight, I would reiterate that this is just the beginning of the this program, and this workshop consists of at least 7-8 sessions, right? And at the end of the session, once this workshop is concluded, we will have final assessment, and all the participants have to appear for the final assessment, and they need to score minimum 40% in the final assessment. All the people who will be able to score 40%, they will be eligible for certificates. So certificates will be at the end of this particular workshop. All right. And we will also share in next session, we will also share one small mini project around data analytics, and that project also have to be solved and submitted by the end of the workshop. Sure, Sagar. No worries. So I'm now closing the assessment. I hope all of you have submitted it. If there is still someone who haven't submitted or left, please do let me know. Yes, Sagar, certificate, the same thing I just told, that certificate will be at the end of the workshop, and there will be an assessment for certification, right? So once we are done with all the sessions, all the planned sessions for the workshop, we will be conducting an online assessment, and in that assessment you will have to score minimum 40%, right? And the people who will get minimum score minimum 40%, you people will get the certificates.
Okay, sir. So, can we conclude this session, sir?
Sure, sir. So session is concluded from my end, sir. And if
Okay.
there's anything, any announcement that you would like to make, please go ahead.
We have already mentioned in the chat box. If anybody is having any query, we will resolve it. Okay.
Sure, sir. So we'll see all of you in the next session. Thank you so much till then. And please stay safe. I hope this session was useful, and looking forward to a lot of very interactive and learning, fruitful interactions in coming sessions. Thank you so much, everybody, for your time and patience. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.